Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well today. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of our third quarter town hall meeting. My name is Jack Garrison.
I'm Tyler Hirth.
We're two of the financial planners here at Strategic Wealth Group. And for those of you that this is your first time, we do these town hall meetings on a quarterly basis. It's the last Tuesday of the month following quarter end. And so we just like to hop on, give a little bit of an update on, hey, what's going on in the economy, what's going on in the markets, what are we seeing from our perspective, some tax updates, and then also just some good stuff that's changing with our team, good updates for our team. So thank you everybody for joining in. Today we want to go over just we want to go over an economic update, some broad level changes that we're making to our investment models, go over some of the tax changes that got passed with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And then also share about a fun event that we have coming up in just a couple of weeks. So with that, we can go ahead and get started with the economic update. Tyler, you want to get us kicked off?
Sure. When it looks like everything that we've seen in the markets, or what a lot of the economists have been saying is, yeah, they're very, very bullish on what is the future hold for the US. As soon as we keep getting more certainty with a lot of the tariffs getting behind us and moving forward, you're going to see that a lot of companies will have a lot more certainty, and the market has a lot more certainty. And with that, drives a lot more confidence in the market. With that being said, you have the AI productivity, and you have the opportunity of a lot more profits that are able to be made due to the efficiencies and confidence within the markets. You see a lot more of the consumer being very strong. Yesterday, a lot of the four of the big seven of the Mag 7, if you will, reported, and they came ahead of schedule, which was great, beat their estimates. But you really do see, again, a lot of headwinds for strength, GDP coming out higher than expected. Yeah, I guess there's just a lot of positives when it comes to that. Jackie, anything more to add to that?
Yeah, I would say one of the questions I know that Tyler and I get a lot, and I'm sure a lot of the advisors on our team get, is like, hey, what are you guys thinking about the economy? How are things looking? And I think a lot of people ask that question because what they hear on the news or what they're hearing from their friends or what they're reading online tends to seem really negative. And so consumer sentiment still remains weak if you look at the broad data of how everybody in the US as a whole is thinking about the economy or the market, if you will. But actually, there's a lot of really good economic indicators that are pointing to our economy being in a very strong, very good position. And the employment rate is still extremely high. Overall economic activity is up relative to previous periods. Companies are still reporting strong earnings. And so there's a lot of really good that's happening in the economy. And I think people tend to lean into the negative bias that is being told in the news outlets or what they read online. And so from our perspective, the economy really is in a good spot right now. There's no major warning red flags from our point of view that would cause some deep, scary, dark recession, despite what is happening with tariffs or the Big Beautiful Bill Act or whatever the case is. So we just want to kind of spread the word from our perspective that, hey, we're actually, the economy, the American economy is in a very good spot. And don't let the news sources scare you into thinking that we're in a bad spot, because economically speaking, we're really not.
We've got a lot of room to go. I keep going back to remembering 2020 and even over 2019, if you will. Interest rates were close to 2%. And during those times, when we had unemployment around 4.5%, 5%, we really didn't have much more places to go. Now, with the interest rates being around 4.5%, 5%, we have a lot of ways to spur the economy. And with such a strong labor force and having unemployment being so low, there's just a lot of good headwinds. And with all the new jobs that are coming on board with the AI boom, whether that's the construction, electricians, everything else needed to help this AI resurgence of the economy, there's just so many positive headwinds and places we can go with this. I just can't be more positive on this. It's silly to have the negativity around any of it right now.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add in there is I think, and I know I've mentioned this before, I know I brought it up with some of our clients, is that the stock market and the economy are two completely separate items. And yes, earlier this year, we did see a very sharp drawdown in the equity markets, and a lot of people felt that. But since then, equity markets have recovered really nicely. We just hit a market all-time high on the S&P 500 last week. Now we're just shy of 4% above previous all-time highs. So yeah, even though we call that a whipsaw market, when it drops down really fast and recovers really fast, and even though we saw one of those earlier this year, markets are at an all-time high. Consumer sentiment across the board is getting better. But from our perspective, everything's tracking to be a good year as of now. Tyler, do you want to hit on some of the Liberation Day points? Because I know we've gotten quite a few questions on tariffs.
Yeah, I go back to that was a man-made issue. And yeah, you did see a 20% drawdown in the equity market during that point in time of the S&P 500 due to Liberation Day or the tariffs that were made. Man-made again. And when you have those man-made economic pieces, you are seeing that, hey, it's a lot faster recovery. Jack referred to it as like a whipsaw up and down, we call like a V-shaped recovery. Every way you look at it, it was a very, because it was man-made, it was a very easy recovery, if you will. Yeah, I guess I really wanted to just drive home that point on that piece.
Yeah, with the tariffs, there's still a lot of uncertainty regarding it. Because if you follow the news and what's happening in Washington and trade talks that are happening with other countries, is nothing's really set in stone yet. And from our perspective, we're still continuing to watch the developments because stuff changes so rapidly. Tyler?
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of the deals, more deals getting done. They're on pace. And this isn't whether you're right, left, green, purple, blue, green, whatever, doesn't matter. The facts are that this year, due to tariffs, you will see that the US Treasury will receive over, they're on track to draw in over 800 billion worth of profits from, or not profits, tariff related income to the Treasury. Good or bad. I think that's great if they use it to offset some of the $37 trillion of debt that we had. That means that we've already spent in prior years. So if we can actually strengthen the US dollar and strengthen the economic position of the US economy, and using tariffs as a tool, that'd be huge. I'm really excited to I guess another bill that just passed recently. And we're not just going to try to stay on politics this whole time. I know we'll bore a lot of people with it, but the Genius Act is a huge thing with the stable coin that came out that is going to be pegged to the US dollar. You are going to see a surgence of how strong the US dollar is based on the whole global currency if they are going to use crypto with this Genius Act that just passed. You will see that because it's pegged to the US dollar now makes the US dollar that much stronger. And you are going to see a lot more onshoring of a lot of this AI boom that instead would have otherwise went to the Caribbean or other places that wouldn't have been in our purview of the US. So I think there's a lot of, again, positive headwinds moving forward when you're looking at the strength of the US economy, the strength of the US dollar, a lot of good things that drive. Yes, it's not a perfect correlation, but yes, you will see the S&P 500 or the actual stock market itself tend to like those things. I don't know. Don't want to say too much that there is that much correlation with the rest.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the biggest things we want to talk about when it comes to economic updates. And so the next point is, okay, well, what are we seeing from an investment perspective? And what are we doing to change our investments? What are we doing to our models? And so this quarter, really the only change that we're making to our models is we're slightly increasing our international position at the expense of domestic. Now, what does that mean? Is we want to make sure that we have a balanced portfolio no matter what. And part of having a well-diversified portfolio is having some exposure to international markets. And so this quarter, we're just going to be slightly increasing our international exposure by about 5%. So it's not a major swing where we're going 30% or 40%. It's a relatively small change. but we just want to make sure that, we always want to make sure that our portfolios have diversification across many different asset classes, and international exposure is an extremely important one. And so we're just beefing that up slightly. But it's not some drastic change that's going to completely flip everything on its head. And so we're going to be making those changes in about 2 weeks from today, or 2 weeks from a week from Thursday. And so if you have any questions on that, or if you want to chat about it with your advisor more, please reach out to them. We're here to help answer questions on, hey, why are we doing this? If anybody really wants to get weird, I've got a 250-page PowerPoint deck with economic data to go over with you if you really want to nerd out. But yeah, that's really the only change that we're making to the models right now. Other than that, we don't see the need to make any massive changes inside of there.
To put more context around that 5% swing, we were really at like a 10% international exposure, and now we're just increasing that to 15. If you look at it from like a Fidelity or some other points of view, we're still a little bit underweighted in that international exposure. So we are very much US domestic, I guess, bias, if you will, at like an 85% tilt. Versus like and again, I don't want to compare ourselves to like Fidelity or some of the other players, but they're like at an 80-20, we're at like a 75-15. So that's where we will get to with that change. So we were before like a 90-10. Now, because we see that opportunity of international having some good headwinds with the EU deal being done, some other good more certainty in the trade wins that we have. That's why we were seeing, hey, there's an opportunity. Let's move 5% more over to that, and that's just what our CFAs also were telling us too. And that's where we use Horizon, like Jack was saying. Jack has the 250-point PowerPoint slides of telling us why we should move 5% more over.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, those changes are going to happen a week from Thursday. So if between now and then you have questions, please talk to your advisor about it. Reach out to Tyler and I. We're more than happy to explain and really nerd out if you want to. But we'll leave it at that because those are really the only major changes on the investment side of things from our mind.
I do want to just draw back just a second on, we do look at every single position in the portfolio and make sure that it is the absolute best in class of what we're trying to accomplish, whether that's growth, value, large, small, mid, and then like international on this. We're staying pat in everything else because we watch it every single Thursday at 9 o'clock, we get together and we have this good investment process and policy that we follow. That was really just the only tweak that we needed to make to take advantage of the situation that we saw. We're still very much more growth oriented. We're much more growth over value. We've seen that over the last 10 years. Growth has absolutely dominated it, and it will continue. Again, I was having a conversation with a client earlier about how, growth CEOs reinvest in their companies. They're innovative. They're not paying a dividend. They're not sitting back and just collecting the drippings from what they've done over the last 50 years. So yeah, growth is more growth oriented and going to outperform value over a long term. So we still have that focus that way. Sorry, I filibustered there.
That was perfect.
I'm on a little soapbox here a little bit, but I just always like to sometimes explain a little bit more on some other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we want to go over some of the tax updates, some good tax updates. A couple of weeks ago, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed. What was it, the day before 4th of July? July 3rd?
That's when it passed, but when did it get signed? July 4th at 4 o'clock. There was a little bit of a parade, 250. Yeah, anyways, yeah. July 4th, it got signed, so it was great. It all worked out.
Yeah, so with that, we just want to go over some of the updates, mainly that are going to affect our clients. There's a lot of stuff in there inside the bill, but we want to highlight on some of the stuff that's mainly going to affect our client base. So one of the biggest ones that we are watching over the past couple of years was the ordinary income tax brackets. And so right now those brackets are 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, and 37. That's a lot of tax brackets. The good news is they're all staying where they're at now, and they're not reverting back to what they were in 2017. And so that's great news for us. It's great news for everybody else because you're not getting an automatic bump up in income tax, which is great. So those are going to stay around. And then there are going to continue to get inflation adjustments over the next couple of years. Another nice thing to point out is in 2026, the 10% and 12% brackets are going to get an additional bump for inflation at that time, which just widens the bottom of the bracket a little bit. So that's actually a benefit to everybody. You don't just have to be in the 10 or 12% bracket to take advantage of that. So, yeah, the ordinary income tax brackets are staying the same, which from our perspective is a huge win. Tyler, anything to add on that?
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things as we were talking to clients. We would talk about how the tax law in 2016, that's what it was. This is what it's going to revert to. And now that's not going to happen. So Roth conversion was a huge piece we would talk about with all of our clients. Guess what? It still is a great opportunity to still take advantage of Roth conversions. There's just a lot more to think about now, since we have the certainty of, hey, we know that the tax law is not going to change, or those tax brackets aren't going to change. Now let's do the advanced planning of when do we need the cash and how does it look when it goes to the beneficiaries. So that still really comes into play. I guess I'll jump on the fact of,
Can I hit one more
yeah,
piece
please
that's
go
not
for it. That's
reverting?
why it's,
Another piece that's not reverting, which is huge from our perspective, is the federal estate tax exemption. That is remaining at $15 million for each individual in 2025 and beyond. And so that was one thing we were watching when we're talking about estate planning with our clients, is those that have larger estates where that estate tax is going to become or could be a potential issue down the road. That was set to sunset and go back to about 7 million adjusted for inflation from 2017. But with the passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, it's staying at 15 million per individual. So a married couple has nearly $30 million worth of exemption. So two things that stayed, we love.
and again, it means nothing if your estate is below 30 million. That means you can give 30 or up to 30 million away and not have to worry about estate tax or death tax on the federal side only on that. Great state of Minnesota. I know we have some clients that are listening to this that don't have to worry about the Minnesota stuff, but I guess the vast majority of our clients are in Minnesota, so they have to worry about the great state of Minnesota, and that's 3.1 million. We'll talk about that stuff later. Definitely call one of your advisors to talk about that. But on the federal side, you can give 30 million away and no problems. No issues. I'll take on the next one here, if you will, of standard deduction. Actually, you see that actually got a little bit of a nice raise. So in 2026, you'll see that it goes up a little bit, up to 32,000. And then if you're 65 and over, here's where another little nice caveat is you get an additional $6,000 of a deduction off of your income tax. Now you have to have $150,000 or below of adjusted gross income. So it's a nice piece, but that is what, so that we'll just keep it that. So now you can basically have around $40,000 of a deduction, standard deduction wise, in order for, and not itemize if you're 65 and over. I'll let you jump in on anything on that.
Yeah, no, it's a nice added deduction. The phase out for a married couples from 150,000 of AGI to 250,000 of AGI. So it's crucial that you work with our team of CPAs if we do your tax return to make sure that we're taking advantage of that. The other thing to keep in mind is with a higher standard deduction, that does make it harder to itemize deductions. And so now what we're seeing is if we're trying to itemize deductions, the typical mortgage interest, health receipts, stuff like that isn't going to be affected as, or you're not going to be able to take advantage of those as much. And so if we really are wanting to take advantage of itemized deductions, we're going to have to get a little bit more creative, i.e., for example, like a donor advised fund if we're charitable giving. And that's really where we come in and we do a lot of planning and tax planning with our clients, is saying like, hey, if we're wanting to take advantage of the itemized deduction, now that it is significantly higher, we just have to jump through, I don't want to say jump through hoops, but just get a little bit more creative in how we're going to take advantage of the itemized deduction. But from, if you look at the vast majority of tax filers, of by and large, many people take the standard deduction because itemizing now is just so hard.
I would, adding on the standard deduction piece is that if we're taking standard deduction and we're getting that extra 6,000 and we want to be charitable inclined, a nice thing that was added with this OBBA bill, is that you can give up to $2,000 above and be, or to any church or charity or whatever of your liking. It's just got to be qualified. And you can then still take standard deduction and that's $6,000. Before, you've heard us always talk about it was only $400 or $500. And so it was really, you weren't getting much charity claiming when doing a standard deduction. So to piggyback on Jack's comments on that, we always try to talk about donor advised funds and other things to doing that because we want to make sure you get your full bang for your buck with your deductions as you are so charitable inclined. So now you can do $2,000 of cash, take that as a deduction and take standard deduction and the 6,000. So I just think that those all together, that's a huge win for a lot of families. Technically 88% of families that are in retirement today will qualify for that. And so unfortunately, what did not get in the bill, and this is where that $6,000 came in, was Social Security can still be taxable to you if you are above certain income limits. Where Social Security, you still have to go through that calculation to understand if your Social Security is going to be taxable or not. Now, you don't need to go into that right now, but basically, in lieu of that, that's why you get that $6,000 deduction now, and 88% of people will receive their Social Security tax-free. So that was sort of the way that they did that trade-off, or as they did that negotiation in the 10th hour to get this bill passed. So it still helped 88% of Americans that are on Social Security have a tax-free Social Security bit. So it's a win. I like it.
Oh, do you want to hit on the salt cap that was raised for salt deductions?
Because we're in the great state of Minnesota, we have a salt issue that we have to worry about. Not the salt that we put on the road. We talk about the salt deductions. That's your state and local tax. So when you look at that before, from 2017 to 2025, you could only take $10,000 of tax that you paid to your state and local tax, your property taxes, your state income taxes. Now, if you're under $500,000, you can now take up to $40,000 of state and local taxes that you pay as a deduction off your federal income tax. Huge win for people in Minnesota that pay more into state and local taxes of property taxes. And as everybody talks about, their property tax bills are going up. We all know the state of Minnesota, our state income taxes are going up. Yes, the top bracket will go from 9.1 to 12.6 here in the next biennium. So wrong soapbox, we'll get on that one for a different town hall. But yeah, you will be able to write off around up to $40,000, phased out for up to that $500,000 mark and above. It'll phase out down to $10,000 again. But making 500,000, that's neither here nor there. So I guess I can't really add much more to that one.
No.
I mean, it's just a nice win on that.
Yeah, especially for high income tax states, Minnesota, New York, California. Fortunately, Arizona, Florida don't benefit as much from it, but we live here in the great state of Minnesota, so that salt deduction increasing from 10 basically by 4 times is a huge win. And so our CPAs are all over that come tax time, making sure that our clients, if we do your tax return, you do qualify to get that big deduction, we're going to take advantage of it.
Wisconsin, I don't know if you said Wisconsin or not, I couldn't remember, but yeah, that's another big one. Big state that has just as high taxes, or almost as high taxes as Minnesota. So. Another tax bill or tax one that I like, this one is for the younger generation, if you will. $2,000 tax credit which is a tax credit from the deduction. Credit is cash in pocket off your tax bill. It is a refundable one. So if you only owed in $1,200 and you get this $2,000 one, you could actually receive cash back due to the tax credit per kid. So that's pretty nice for any child under 17 to get $2,000 of a child tax credit. Again, that helps a lot of people. And yeah, people that are having kids that need a deduction because childcare is, as we all know, is really expensive. So yeah, no, I thought that was another good one to add in there. Um, you want to grab another one?
Let's see what other I have written down here. No, unless you go ahead. You
Yeah,
can
mortgage,
keep it up.
the mortgage interest deduction, that cap has now risen from 500,000 up to 750,000 and phased out to 1 million. So people that are buying houses, as the housing market keeps going up and interest rates are up, that interest deduction was phased out at a very low level. Now you can have a mortgage up to 750 and use a lot of that interest as deduction. Yes, it is subject to standard deduction where standard deduction still might be better, but 7% at 750,000, 49,000, you're going to be over that standard deduction anyway, so you're probably going to itemize. So it's not that hard to figure that one out. It's an easy one in my mind. For the business owners, I mean, we could definitely spend a lot all day on that. I would love the opportunity, or one of our 13 tax people on our team here would love to talk to the business owners of how the pass-through entity tax changed a little bit. It just got a little bit bigger. The PTE tax, if you will. The section 179, when you're looking at bonus depreciation, being able to depreciate some of the equipment that gets put into use, American-made equipment also. So you see a lot of that opportunities in that piece. We could go into the Trump or work from home deduction, $1,500 deduction for home office expenses. That'll only be good from 2025 to 2028. That's a $1,500 one for clients that are 200,000 and below of modified adjusted gross income. So that it goes above and beyond like the normal internet, cell phone, those other pieces, you get another 1,500 from there. I know another one, it's way too gray, but it is going to happen in July of 2026. People might have heard about this. It's the Trump account for any child that was born in 2025, 2026, 2027. They will get an automatic $1,000 credit into a Trump account from the federal government of $1,000. And any child or any parent or any actually charitable or employer, I was reading, can put money into there. You don't get a deduction, it's just cash, but it does grow tax free. And yeah, it's just a way that you can invest into the future of a child and not use a 529 plan or use a NUTMA account. Has to be invested into a 10 basis point or a 0.1% mutual fund or ETF. So and has to track the S&P 500. So just your normal, you're very bland, or not bland, just a very low expense ETF of a mutual fund that tracks the S&P 500. Jack, what, SPY, SPYG?
Yep, I could name
You
50.
could name probably 50 of them. But yeah, I think you're going to see that get rolled out in 2026 of July. So it's something it's a little bit vague, but it's still something that is cool that will happen. You'll see it come through. I think that was a good one. I guess I did want to go over one piece, is that there were no changes really to any issues when it comes to Medicare, although everything stayed intact exactly the same. And Medicaid, so people that have 0 to 30,000 of income, there just became a work requirement to that. So anybody under 65 that was very low income, yes, you have to either donate time of 20 hours a week or work 20 hours a week to qualify for Medicaid now, instead of it just being, hey, I don't make any money and I get free health insurance through Medicaid. So that was really the only changes to the Medicare Medicaid situation through the big beautiful bill, or the OBBA. Again, we don't care if you're left, right, blue, green, red, or center, just trying to state facts here. Can't really think of, I guess that was sort of anything else on this, Jack, that you
No.
see?
That was all the major points I wanted to hit on. A lot, like you said, there's a lot of stuff that
There's
pertains
so
to business owners. There's a lot of stuff in there that would just honestly confuse you, but confuses us And so we just want to hit on the main points that are going to be affecting our client base that we know we're going to see day in and day out.
I got another one that I think is sort of unique is there are some classes of employees that will qualify for $25,000 of tax-free income due to tips and or overtime. That is still being worked out through how you file a QB. Sorry for using some jargon. The spot on the actual tax return that you file, a 1040. That's where you figure out your QBI and it's below the line deductions. Anyways, long story short of it, if you have questions on that one, and if you are in a service industry that you do get tips or overtime, we will be advanced enough to help you take care of that piece. I should almost pull up a 1040 and put it right on the screen and we could show it. But anyways, they are revamping that. Nobody really has the true documents yet. We won't actually probably get those till January because that's when the government shuts the computers down from November 15th to January 15th to actually reboot the whole system and actually start being able to file IRS 1040s and 941s and everything else. So again, sorry for that soapbox, but yeah, we don't have those forms yet, but it is something cool, I think, for people that are in that service industry or where you get some overtime, where you get some tips. So that did go through and that happened there. All right. Any other thoughts or questions, Jack?
No, all good on the tax piece. Want to hit on two more items here before we wrap up our town hall. One, wanted to give a team update. We've had some additions to our team over the last quarter, so want to make sure that we're shouting those people out. Welcome to the team. So if you see their name come up, yes, they are a part of our team. Mira joined us as our operations manager, so helping us out with a lot of the operations on the business side of things. She's awesome. She's great. She's killed it so far, and she's only been here for a couple weeks, which is awesome. She's a great addition to the team. And then Peyton joined our team on the customer service specialist side of things. So same thing with her. She's been here, I think, a little over a month now, and she's been killing it so far. So if you see Peyton or Mira's name in your inbox, they are on our team. They're great additions. And I know Tyler will second this, but we cannot do what we do day in and day out without the team around us. So, yeah, great additions to the support staff. Can't thank them enough for all that they do.
And one of the other big things I'll quick tell another story here is that on May 1st was a huge day for Strategic Wealth Group. I'll start out with one of them here. May 1st, Mark Magnuson decided to join us after 40 years of experience in 1983. He joined IDS, which is now Ameriprise. He was with IDS for about 10 years. And then he joined a company in 1995 called Linsco. Linsco ended up becoming Linsco Private Ledger, and lo and behold, is now called LPL. And he joined them in 1995. And then on May 1st, he decided to join our team. So he brings over 40 years of experience and a wealth of knowledge and other attributes that are awesome, that his clients are now going to be part of our team and join us. So we're excited to have him join and be part of our team. And also on that same day, there was a team up in Lino Lakes. They joined us. There's 4 advisors, and I'll go through that list here if you will. Mike Trudeau joined Thrivent in 2009. So he's been in the business for 16 years. He's a CFP. Ben Olilla, 2008. So I actually should start with Ben first, but Ben also CFP in 08 and joined, and that whole team joined us on May 1st. Matt Merrick joined Thrivent in 2015, and then Ben Perkle joined in 2021. And all 4 of them make up that team up in Lino Lakes. In 2020, I remember talking to Ben Olilla, if you will, back in 2018, 19, and he was telling me about this piece of land that they bought in Lino and how they're going through the city to make all this. And so they actually broke ground in 2020, and then eventually in 2022, they finally built this big, beautiful building up there, which is, it's really cool, the architect. And when you get a chance, go up and see it. They'd love to give you a tour. It's again, architecturally very beautiful and fun. And inside there, they also have an operations manager named Steve. And and Abby, and then Katie is the office manager that makes the whole thing go. So yeah, with their whole team of 7 up there is awesome. And then Amber, she's a longtime teammate of ours with Amanda and Steve Doyle, Amanda Berry, if you will. You saw that Amber really, she lived up in Coon Rapids, so just logistically it worked very well for her to start officing up in Lionel. So we've brought this whole team on together, and actually as of today we have 34 people part of the strategic wealth group, so part of the tax division and advisor group, the whole thing together. It's a really fun, exciting time to have 34 people all together. I'm excited for this, for our holiday party coming up, to have probably like whatever 68 70 people all together at one time. So with that being said, it's we have a lot of fun things, exciting things, and I'll stop so I don't keep going on my soapbox on this, but Jack, you got anything else to comment on that? Or
No, love our team. Wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. So it's fun to see us growing, which is awesome. Last piece we want to hit on here, we have an awesome client appreciation event coming up on August 14th from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock in downtown Excelsior, the band shell, or the Commons right by the lake there. We're going to have a band. We're going to have a couple of food trucks. We're going to have some beverages, bouncy house for the kids. Rival 5 is the band that's playing, so we're going to blow it out. It's going to be awesome. So everybody is invited. Your friends are invited. Your spouse is invited. Your kids are invited. Your cousins, nephews, aunts, uncles. Everybody's welcome to come out. Just going to be a fun night of listening to some really good music, having some good food, enjoying time by the lake. Our entire team is going to be there, and we hope to see as many people there as we possibly can.
come on, it's a taco truck, which I'm excited for the tacos. We've got an ice cream truck, so we've got ice cream, sundaes, and all that fun stuff. And then a concession stand one where you got corn dogs, chicken tenders, French fries, all the fun stuff there. 2 bouncy houses, not one, 2, 45-footer and a 30-footer. I think it's just going to be such a great time. I'm excited for it, so it'll be really cool. And Rival 5, Amber has a relationship to have Rival 5 come in, and we have a lot of great sponsors helping us put this big event on. It is free. I don't know if you said that or not.
Nobody has to pay for it.
No. So we've logistically got it covered. So we want to thank our sponsors for that. We'll have some banners to thank them. But yeah, we've got just could not be more excited for that. Excelsior, the band shell, it'll be great.
Yeah.
So I can't think of anything else. We should love to save a little bit of time for some questions.
Want to open it up. This is the time to ask questions about anything that we went over, anything that you might have heard that you want to get some clarification on. I will point out, if you have a question specific to you or your portfolio or something like that, please don't bring that up on the Zoom call in front of everybody else. If you have a question that's very specific to your situation, talk to your advisor about it or reach out to Tyler and I offline. We'll be more than happy to discuss. But if you have a broad-based question about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, the market, the economy, our client appreciation event, now's the time to ask. So feel free to come off of mute and ask that question, or else throw it in the chat as well. We'll hang on for a couple of minutes as we see questions coming.
I was wondering, have you made any changes with regard to your categories of risk assessment?
So how we look at risk is based on each individual client itself. And so on a broad basis, we have not de-risked any of the portfolios. It is really based more on the investment goals and strategy that each client has with their advisor. And so if they are at a time where they really don't want to see much volatility, that advisor and that client need to all right, the preservation model or something like that should be more addressed that way. We do look at how our preservation models or our non as volatile portfolios or non up and down, if you will, portfolios are performing. And so we have made changes. I know last quarter we took out some that were trying to be defensive against interest rates going up. So we took that position out. We've made some changes inside there, but we have not changed any of the risk profiles of the actual overall portfolios themselves. So that one is more of a poignant question as you and your advisor are sitting down. Do I have too much risk in my personal portfolio to look at it that way? Jack, is there anything you could add on that, or like,
Yeah.
or is there anything I missed on explaining that? Or
Nope.
did that help? I guess
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in general, it's risk is really it's a continuum. And so risk to one person means something completely different to another person. And so it's hard to say that we're going to de-risk the entire portfolio or all of our holdings as a whole when it really pertains to individuals themselves, because you can have a 70-year-old who is 100% invested in stocks, and that's not risky enough for them. They're more than comfortable with that. You can also have a 70-year-old who has, 70% of their portfolio in bonds. And so it's really dependent on the individual themselves. And that's where we try to take a fine-tooth approach with each client to build their portfolio specific to them and their goals.
Okay.
We got another question here. What do you think about Social Security running out of funds? Tyler is extremely passionate about this one, so I will let him answer that one.
yes, I really do think it is such an easy fix. And I think Jack and I, as we do a lot of our appointments together, we say the same thing over and over of the fact that we could fix this problem in less than 2 minutes. And right now, unfortunately, the Congress has zero appetite to try to address this issue. They'll do the normal thing and kick the can all the way down the road until the 12:01, or shoot, they'll probably pass it at 4 a.m. some midnight or after midnight to get this bill or to get it done, to get Social Security done. How do you fix it? There's so many easy ways to fix it. In whether that's you raise, right now we only pay FICA tax on up to $180,000. You could easily increase that from 180,000 to like 300, 400, whatever. Or you could just, there's so many simple little levers that we could easily pull, but for some reason, Congress has zero desire or appetite to try to address this issue right now. And it's just, it could not be more annoying. Again, probably third on the more annoying thing, the number one annoying thing in my mind is that they don't address the $37 trillion that we have of debt as a national security, but Social Security will not go defunct or will not go bankrupt, because you would have the biggest revolt in the world or in the US if you had that happen of anyone 60 and older. It just will not happen.
Long story short, it's really not a worry in our mind, because as we're sitting and we're building financial plans for our clients, we always make sure Social Security is factored in there. That's something that, while we don't know what maybe the exact numbers are going to be, or if they're going to change the full retirement age as we continue on down the road, we always want to make sure that we're factoring in there, because it will be there in some form or fashion. What that's going to look like 30 years from now, shoot, I don't know what next month's going to look like, but we know that it will be there in some form or fashion. And so we want to make sure that we're taking that into account when we're building out these plans for our clients.
One of the things that we wanted to look at is what if Social Security was down in half, or like half of the Social Security would, like your statement says, in 2032, 33 cents on the dollar gets put in there. There is a quick little button in our financial planning tool that we hit that button, we could show exactly what would happen to your plan, and you'd have to pull the more reserves out of your plan in order for you to make up that difference of income. And I can tell you, a majority of our clients are in an okay spot, but I think that for us even having to click that button and model out that what if scenario about 2032 happening, it's such a very minor risk in my eyes of looking at this. Yeah, I'll stop there. I wish I had more of a crystal ball on that one. I don't, but it's not a big of a fear.
What other questions do people have? We want to make sure we're taking all the time that you guys require. That's what we're here to do. So any other questions, feel free to shoot them out to us.
What can you say? Good job. Good job. I think you did it all, Bob.
Nobody ask all the questions at once, please. That's a joke. I don't mean it to seem like high school, but it is fun having back and forth banter about, hey, what questions are out there? How can we help? I'm curious how crypto may play into a strategic plan. Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, cryptocurrency has become a lot more prevalent over the past decade. It has exploded. Bitcoin, which is probably the most famous cryptocurrency, the one that's most widely used, hit an all-time high just a couple of weeks ago. You can actually now buy cryptocurrencies via ETFs or exchange traded funds, which we can hold inside of client portfolios, which was a huge game changer for our industry because it now allows us to buy those investments or buy cryptocurrency via an ETF that is traded on a major exchange inside of client portfolios. I will say that does not necessarily mean that every single client needs to have cryptocurrency in their portfolio, but if you want to learn more about it, I do think it can be a nice addition, a nice little satellite position to a portfolio. But it's not necessarily our main holdings. I wouldn't classify Tyler and myself as crypto bros, if you will. Though we understand it, we believe in it, we see the value that it can provide to a portfolio and to an investment strategy. And so it is something that we're starting to institute more. Again, depending on the client's situation and what they're trying to achieve. But I certainly do think it has its place in wealth management. It just depends on the goals of what you're trying to achieve.
The bigger thing I think of like as cryptocurrency is this stable coin. And what you're gonna see is the disruption of the actual banking system itself. Of when you look at a country like Uruguay or Peru or some of these other smaller countries, as they're trying to transfer money from wherever to wherever, it's going to be pegged to a stable coin that is now pegged to the US dollar. When I say it's pegged, that means that this stable coin has to have the cash of the US currency in the actual US dollar itself. You want that is the absolute biggest game changer when you're talking about people transferring money from one to another using a stable coin. A stable coin just means that it's not gonna fluctuate. It's just gonna be pegged to the US dollar, stay what it is. Holy cow. So I really do see the whole, and I don't want to use cryptocurrency because I really only believe in like Bitcoin's the actual only one that's worth anything. The rest of them are all Ponzi shell game. That's my personal opinion. But the rest, yeah. So stable. I mean, having the whole financial system being turned upside down, not having to use the rails of actual JP Morgan to Wells Fargo and using the Fed. This is going to be a completely different world that we're going to be living in 2026 and 7 and 8 as this gets adopted. I think that's huge on that aspect.
Got another question here on, can we repeat what we said about the work from home $15 additional deduction?
So a temporary $1,500 deduction for home office expenses is introduced from 2025 to 2028 for employees with your modified adjusted gross income. So your income is below 200,000 as you are trying to, if you're making less than 200,000 on your tax return, you can take a $1,500 home office deduction. So let's say your internet isn't, you add up all the deductions, and if it's not more than 1,500, you could take a $1,500 deduction, take it and go with it. We don't know exactly a lot of these details of, can you take the internet, your, 1/16 of your home of the mortgage of everything else and add that up and then also add a $1,500 deduction? We don't know that yet because they still haven't, again, like I said, they haven't even written the actual code or the actual 1040s and the actual worksheets for us to actually figure out how these actually all perfectly work together. But in a sense, yes, I'm just going to say that's what it is. But yeah, there's a $1,500 deduction that's available to you for home office.
Do you use AI in your forecasting or in your strategy?
I personally, no, we do not. When we're looking at like PE ratios or looking at what stocks to buy and everything like that. No, we do not. I personally do not. I don't think really anyone on our team does.
No.
We utilize AI to try to read articles to try to boil down a 2,800 page bill into 13 pages and write it so a third grader can read it. That's basically, I mean, we use AI in that aspect, but not into any financial modeling of forecasting for how do stocks do or how do we project profits of companies? No.
Yeah. While artificial intelligence in my mind is extremely powerful, I don't think that it's a substitute for the human brain. I still think doing your own research or doing our own research, applying our knowledge, applying our expertise is really invaluable. It can't be, that really can't be replaced by AI in my mind. And so I think we use AI as an enhancement to what we do, but it doesn't completely replace projections or models or anything that we're running, because at the end of the day, I still think a lot of what we do needs that human touch, and a lot of what everybody does needs that human touch associated with it. Because AI is not perfect. If you've ever asked ChatGPT a question, like there's some misinformation inside of there. And so it's not perfect yet. It's getting better. And so, but long story short, we don't use it in any projections or modeling that we do. We use it inside of our business as an enhancement to what we do, but nothing to the extent of running out projections.
Good question. Thank you, though.
Any more questions that Tyler and I can help answer this afternoon? Anybody got a burning one?
Try.
Is George still on here? I was gonna say something about, is it at the food truck, is it a Pronto Pup or a corn dog? Because apparently there's a huge difference.
I do not know the
I
difference.
don't know the difference either. There's gonna,
It'll be good.
At
It'll
our
be great.
client appreciation event, it'll either be corn dogs or Pronto Pups. I guess you'll have to come and find out which one it is.
And then tell me what the difference is, because I have no clue.
George has told me 100 times. I can't.
Well, I would. Yeah.
All right. Well, if nobody else has any questions, we're certainly not going to make you guys sit here till the bell. We just appreciate everybody hopping on, taking the time to listen to Tyler and I blab for a little bit. Again, our town halls, we do these on the last Tuesday following the quarter end. So our next one will be the last Tuesday in October is the next time we'll do a town hall event. So appreciate everybody for hopping on here. You guys are free to leave. Not that this is high school. You were free to leave at any point in time, but you chose to stick around and listen to our voices. We'll hang on for a couple more minutes in case anybody has anything else specific, but appreciate everybody's time this afternoon. Stay safe and we'll see you all soon. Cool. Take care.